So I want to investigate today with you the win streak of Valter Walker because it's a very curious win streak. Valter Walker won on Saturday his fight against Thomas Peterson with a submission in the first round, a calf slicer to be exact. He tried to get Thomas Peterson with a heel hook submission, but Thomas Peterson was able to roll out, shake himself out of it. Well, not completely. When he tried to escape, Valter Walker readjusted and got him in a calf slicer from behind. So he almost had the heel hook, but not quite. In any case, it was yet another leg lock submission. And what's so interesting about this win streak is there's really only two explanations for the manifestation of this win streak. Like, when you ask how was he able to get these 5 submissions in a row in the first round in the heavyweight division of the UFC, you really only left with 2 possible explanations. And one of these explanations, right, so what's so interesting is that he got a heel hook submission on 4 of his last 5 submission victories. He got 4 heel hooks in a row in the UFC. And then almost got a heel hook again now with the calf slicer though. And when you ask the question, how was he able to do this? You're only left with 2 possible explanations. The first explanation, and this is probably the one that Junior Tafa and Don'Tale Mayes and Kennedy Nzechukwu and Louis Sutherland and Thomas Peterson will point to, and probably a lot of other UFC heavyweights, is Valter Walker is an exceptional talent when it comes to the heel hook submission. He is so phenomenal at this technique that it is basically next to impossible to defend this. That would be the cherishable explanation. That would be the explanation that makes Valter Walker look very good and doesn't make the heavyweights look bad. And this is exactly the point of this investigation, because I kind of want to figure out, or at least think about with you, what of the 2 explanations is the more likely one, or is there like an interaction between the 2? Are both true, and how true is explanation 1, and how true might explanation 2 be, which is the heavyweights in the UFC are terrible. They suck. That would be explanation 2. Maybe not when it comes to their overall striking and fighting abilities. Of course, I'm sure that Thomas Peterson, Louis Sutherland would defeat 99% of people in a fight. But maybe they are not quite so good as professional MMA fighters, right? As they would like you to believe. That would be explanation 2. And the reason why this is the other explanation, and there's nothing really other than this, is because Valter Walker got almost 5 heel hooks in a row. he got 4 heel hooks in a row. And I think, let's go through these performances one by one. I don't think that we can really hate on Junior Tafa too much. I don't think that Junior Tafa has to be really ashamed that he got submitted with a heel hook by Valter Walker, even though it was in the first round, and even though almost nobody in the UFC gets submitted with a heel hook anymore. In the other divisions, this very rarely happens now. I don't think Junior Tafa has to feel really all that ashamed about it. Because at the point where Valter Walker got the submission victory over him, nobody had ever lost to Valter Walker with a heel hook, right? Valter Walker has never gotten a heel hook in his professional MMA career before that. In fact, he's only had one submission victory in his entire professional career, and that was the second professional fight he's ever had. At that point, it was, I believe, 4 years prior to his fight with Junior Tafa. And instead, Valter Walker got multiple knockout victories on his record, 4 knockouts in a row, right? Some TKOs in there. But looking at Valter Walker, also this man is 6'6". He is gigantic. And when you look at his record in the preparation, if you're Junior Tafa and you see 4 knockouts in a row, you look at the stats and you see this guy is 6'6". You might not really pay much attention to the rear naked choke submission that he got in his second professional fight ever, right? You might think, well, this guy is a knockout threat, a striking threat. I don't really have to pay extra attention to his grappling, my grappling defense, and certainly not leg lock defense, right? So Junior Tafa gets surprised at the end of the first round. He gets submitted with the heel hook. Nothing really to feel too guilty about, to feel too ashamed about. Moving on. A couple months later, though, Don'Tale Mayes fights Valter Walker. And this time it only takes 1 minute and 17 seconds for Valter Walker to submit him with a heel hook. This is kind of embarrassing, right? You might say, how could you have not trained the defense? Like, have you not looked at that? But I would say Don'Tale Mayes doesn't really have to feel that bad about it either. I think, of course, he fucked up, right? He could have taken that more serious. But one heel hook submission, you can really disregard that as like a fluke, right? Especially knowing that the heel hook is something that is rarely successful in the UFC. Maybe Don'Tale Mayes felt pretty comfortable with his leg lock defense that he had trained, and still he was looking at the knockout streak of Valter Walker, thinking like, this guy is probably a much bigger threat on the feet than he is when it comes to the grappling. After all, he's only ever had 2 submission victories. One of them was a rear naked choke, one of them was a heel hook. Those are submissions that are quite different, like positionally to get them. Not really a pattern here that he was able to identify. So he didn't really pay extra attention to this heel hook, I'm assuming, right? So he gets caught again. Kind of embarrassing that it only takes 1 minute and 17 seconds. Kind of embarrassing that it's the same submission Valter Walker got on his opponent a couple months earlier. But nothing that you can really not explain if you put yourself in the mind of Don'Tale Mayes before this fight, right? But then I would say it gets really to a point where you're not really able to you're not really able to look. I mean, it's just a really bad look now for Kennedy Nzechukwu. A couple months later, the same year he fights Valter Walker, gets submitted. This time it doesn't even take a minute for Valter Walker to get a heel hook submission on Kennedy Nzechukwu. And at this point, I think that everybody was already kind of wondering. I mean, I haven't seen the fight again, but I'm sure the announcer said this is the third heel hook that Valter Walker's gotten in a row. And everybody was sort of scratching their heads at that point already, saying, like, wait a minute, like, what exactly is going on here? Is Valter Walker so phenomenal at this heel hook submission that it's impossible to defend for these heavyweights? Or is Kennedy Nzechukwu maybe a little bit, not quite as disciplined about his preparation as maybe he should have been? Like, what's going on exactly, right? Like, how can Kennedy Nzechukwu say anything other in his defense than I fucked up? Like, how can you, even if Valter Walker is incredibly good at this heel hook submission, and like, oh, he's so fast at applying this pressure, right? It looks like he's really quick with it. Still, though, after 2 heel hooks in a row in the UFC, you didn't pay extra attention in the preparation to defend against this heel hook Kennedy Nzechukwu. Like, what were you thinking? Have you not looked at this guy's record? How do you open this guy's record and see 2 first-round submissions, heel hook, in a row in the UFC, and you don't say, hey, maybe I should really freshen up my heel hook defense, like, just to make sure that I don't get completely embarrassed by this guy. I should probably, drill the heel hook defense just a little bit, just a little bit. But I guess at that point, it was really not, he really didn't expect the heel hook threat to be that dangerous. Maybe Kennedy Nzechukwu thought, Dante Mays is a bit of an idiot, and Junior Tafa and Dante Mays kind of suck at grappling. I probably got this. Like, I know how to defend a heel hook. These 2 guys before me were just fucking idiots, right? Maybe that's what he thought. And so there's even a little bit of an explanation there for him. There is no excuse for Louis Sutherland to get submitted with a heel hook the same year, right? This is the 3rd heel hook that year that he gets, and it doesn't even take 90 seconds for Valter Walker to get this heel hook submission on Louis Sutherland. What is Louis Sutherland going to say? I mean, he probably already had said something, but, like, I hope he didn't, say anything other than, I didn't take that shit serious. I thought I know how to defend the heel hook. I was really shocked that he was able to apply pressure so quickly. Right? Like, I fucked up. Basically, I didn't take it serious. That would be kind of the only excuse, right? But even then, how could you have not taken this guy serious after 3 heel hooks in a row? Right, 2 heel hooks in the first round this year. Alright, like, how could you have not done this? Kennedy Nzechukwu KO'd the current light heavyweight champion, Carlos Ulberg. This is not a guy that you can just say, oh, he's a... Well, maybe you can, actually, because the way he got that knockout victory was... People accuse him of having used the Homer Simpson method. Getting beaten up until Carlos got tired and then sleeping him. And Kennedy Nzechukwu has incredible genetics for fighting. Like, his build is unbelievably good for a heavyweight fighter, right? Like, he's essentially built like John Jones. Maybe he even has more preferable statistics in terms of reach and height and stuff than John Jones. I'm not entirely sure about that, but he certainly has a great chin too. Anyway, Louis Sutherland, either way, this is embarrassing. I mean, incredibly embarrassing. Even if you say I didn't take this serious, what you're saying when you use that as an excuse is, I thought all the three guys before me are fucking idiots. Like, I didn't think these guys, like, I think these guys are complete idiots. That's how I was able to not take that serious. You have to completely disregard their abilities on the ground and their preparation and their fight IQ too. Like, in order for Louis Sutherland to not have spent a significant amount of time in the preparation for this fight on the heel hook defense, he would have really ignored or like completely downplayed the fight IQ of the guys before him. And maybe rightfully so. Right? Maybe rightfully so. Maybe he asked the same question. How can Kennedy Nzechukwu be this dumb that he got heel hooked for a third time? What an absolute moron. Like, maybe that's what Louis Sutherland thought. But, of course, he looks even stupider now. Being the fourth guy in a row that Valter Walker submitted with a heel hook, right? And now we get to Thomas Peterson. To Thomas Peterson's credit, he did not get caught in the heel hook. He just got submitted with another leg lock also instantly, and he almost got caught with the heel hook, but he was able to slide out his leg slightly and give Valter Walker the position for another submission. Maybe if Valter Walker was more, like intended more to embarrass the heavyweights, which, I mean, he doesn't really benefit from that. He could have probably gotten a heel hook on Thomas Peterson too. It didn't look like that was. It didn't look like Thomas Peterson was completely in control of that situation. It looked like he kind of got away with something there, sliding out from that first heel hook attempt. Maybe I'm, not being just with him there, but what's clear is he did prepare for the heel hook. That's pretty clear. Maybe Valter Walker still would have gotten it though if he didn't go for the calf slicer right away. But like, what an incredible career for Valter Walker so far. I mean, I would be so curious to know how much money this guy has made with his last 5 performances. Now, I don't know exactly if Junior Taffa landed a couple of strikes on him in that first fight, because it took him 5 minutes, almost 5 minutes to get the submission. I would have to go back and watch it. But I don't think he took basically any damage in the fight with Dante Amaeus, Kennedy Nzechukwu, Louis Sutherland, Thomas Peterson, because those fights only went a minute, right? Like, maybe he ate 1 punch or 2 punches from one of those guys there. I know that Thomas Peterson didn't land anything on him. Anything significant anyway. I don't think he actually landed anything, but yeah, I mean, it's just stunning. It's just stunning. So let me summarize again. There's really only 2 possible explanations to explain this streak. It's Valter Walker is the greatest heel hook submission artist that's ever existed. Well, maybe not that, but like, he's incredibly good at this. So fast, so powerful, so technically perfect with it that it's next to impossible to defend, even for somebody who's extremely well prepared for it, right? Because that's what we're talking about here. In order for him to get this kind of a heel hook streak, leg lock streak, even though his opponents are super well prepared, which they should have been, right? Starting with Kennedy and Zechuku, he should have been really well prepared for this technique. But at least Louis Sutherland and Thomas Peterson should have been on the leg lock submission defense the whole camp. They should have been focused on that so much. Louis Sutherland, no real excuse to be unprepared, right? So if these guys were really well prepared, these results mean that Valter Walker is special with the submissions, with the leg locks. Or these guys were not well prepared. And this is a fucking embarrassment and an exposing of the heavyweight division right here. And honestly, I think that the first thing is certainly partly true. Valter Walker's probably really, like, he's quick with it, you know? I mean, he does surprise people with it, that's clear. It's hard to judge how technically flawless he is and how strong he is, right? That kind of stuff. That's hard to judge. But I believe that he's special at this technique like that. He's really good at this. But I also believe that the heavyweights are lazy fucks. You know, that's what I also believe. I have to admit to this. And the reason I believe this is not just because of this. It's because of the way they look, right? And not really often. They're very much not in shape. And also, it's not the first time that a heavyweight goes into a fight. And this happens in other divisions too, where there's a clear pattern, a clear threat from their opponent, or a clear weakness from their opponent that manifested itself in the last fight of their opponent. They have like 12 weeks to prepare for this opponent, right? Maybe 8 weeks. They have so much time to prepare for these opponents, and yet oftentimes you watch their performance and it becomes very evident that they have absolutely no clue what their opponent is good at, what their opponent is bad at, how they would have the best chances to beat their opponent. Like, it happens quite a lot when you, as a guy who's really not involved in this other than that he's bored and he wants to be entertained a little bit, I'm sitting there on my fucking, in my bed watching these fights. Also, having looked at, out of just boredom, having looked at some of the other fights going on, right? And yet I know, watching the fight, that this guy's not doing the right thing right now. This guy has not seen the performance of his opponent, the last performance of his opponent. What the fuck is this guy doing? When I'm sitting in my bed and I'm asking this question, it's clear to me that there's the best chance to fight this guy, the best chance to beat this guy that you have is to fight according to your strengths and according to his weaknesses. And the weaknesses or strengths of your opponent have become very clear in his last fight, or maybe there's a pattern over his career. But it's especially clear that somebody's unprepared when, like, for example, I think this happened to Greg Hardy in one fight. Maybe it was against Tai Tuivasa. I'm not entirely sure. But there was essentially a fight where he got the shit kicked out of his legs. And his opponent, I believe it was Tai Tuivasa, had just had a performance like the last fight of his career. Just a few months, maybe just a few weeks before. And he did significant damage. It was the story of the fight, was the leg kicks that he landed, right? And yet Greg Hardy was completely unprepared and wasn't able to check a single kick, essentially. Like, maybe I'm doing an injustice now to Greg Hardy, but this is something that I seem to remember. It doesn't matter though. The point is, this happens a lot. And I could look at the examples, but as I just said, I'm just some guy that's watching this out of boredom in the hope to be entertained. I am not at all involved in this. Doing research is not important for me, right? Like, I'm not gonna go and look for examples now. I'm just saying this happens a lot. I'm not the only person to point this out. If you are like offended by this take of mine, then I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, this is clearly true. You can see just how brutally unprepared some fighters are, and there is a little bit of a justification for it that I can understand. Sometimes some fighters will say they don't like watching tape of their opponents because it makes them nervous, right? When their opponent gets a lot of knockouts and stuff, they don't want to envision themselves being a victim like that. And I get that, right? That's fair if that's the case. But A, I don't believe that's the case for all fighters. C, I don't think that it's necessarily the smartest thing to do that. And D, and this is the most important thing, if you don't want to watch tape, then at least get somebody else to watch tape. It doesn't even have to be your coach. Like, first of all, why has your coach not told you about this? The leg kicks or the heel hooks or whatever. But if your coach is busy training 15, 20 other people, doesn't really have time, get somebody to watch the last fight of your opponent. Surely there has to be somebody who's invested enough in your health to watch the fight of your opponent that he had when you tell him that you don't like to watch fights, right? Like, can you not get your mom to watch the fight? Can you not get some of your friends, one of your friends? Is there nobody in your life that cares enough about you to watch the last fight of your opponent, of your professional MMA career? I just don't understand how there's any real... Like, I just don't understand how there's anything but, like, I don't really care about myself and my performance. I don't really care what happens, right? Like, it's just being badly prepared. Oftentimes, that's what it looks like. That's really what it looks like a lot. And I would say, to wrap this up, that even though Valter Walker is probably a really special talent when it comes to the heel hook submissions, these guys also fucking suck. That's what I would also say is the most likely explanation, right? Yeah, you know, hate to come off as a hater here, but I think this is just really being real about it too, you know. I mean, I'm not saying that I wouldn't, maybe I would be the same, you know. Like, I don't know, it's difficult with mental health and stuff like that, and like I know what it's like to self-sabotage also. I really know what that's like, you know, so I can kind of understand that kind of stuff. But if that's what it is, then I think we should be able to point that out, right? Because these performances are, like, this is embarrassing shit, man. Like, you have to be able to admit this if you're a UFC heavyweight. Like, how is it possible that this guy is getting 4 heel hook submissions in a row, almost 5? Like, how is that possible, guys, man? Like, Thomas Peterson, Louis Sutherland, Kennedy, and Zedrick Wu. What's going on, man?